I'm so tired of hearing, every time I work with a graphic designer, I never get what I want. This graphic designer doesn't envision what I need. How do I work with a graphic designer? These are common questions I get asked as a marketing expert, not as a graphic designer, but I'm going to show you 6 tips that you should follow if you want to effectively work with a graphic designer for your brand. These are tips from a marketer who has worked in a marketing agency with graphic designers, with creative directors, and these 6 simple but effective tips are going to help you to move from point A to point B to get the graphic you want and you love. Here we go.
That's good.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria and I'm a digital and content marketer, and welcome to Tuesday Tips. Every Tuesday I give tips on how to grow and market your brand. Now today I'm going to talk about 6 tips, 6 ways that you can work with a graphic designer for your fashion or lifestyle brand. Now, disclaimer, these tips are very graphic designer friendly. If you are hoping for a way to weasel your way out of being a client, this is for the aid, this is for the efforts to help graphic designers get your vision and get your design properly and effectively. So these tips are in consideration to graphic designers who are professional and they know how to work with clients. Okay? So, disclaimer, just letting you know, let's get into it. Here are the 6 tips when working with a graphic designer. Put this aside. Okay, part 1. Communicate with examples. Now, when I say communicate with examples, one of the biggest problems that I find when working with clients and graphic designers is that graphic designers are not mind readers. They have no idea what's going on in your head. You, in your mind, you can see what you want perfectly clear, perfectly envisioned, the colors, the layouts. Graphic designers can't see that. They need visual examples, right? So the first thing you want to do is start looking for examples. Start looking for text that you like, start looking for colors, find other layouts from other brands, and put this all together. I also have a link in the description on how to build a mood board, specifically a brand mood board. Click the link in the description. If you're on IGTV, click the link in my bio, and you can go from there on my blog. Now, that teaches you how to compile pictures, images, text, textures, so that you can pass it on to a graphic designer and get your design or the look and feel that you want nailed down. Now, if you don't know what you want, your graphic designer is not going to know what you want. And in a sense, not everyone knows exactly what they want, but you have to figure out an idea of what you like. Because if you don't know what you want and you give that graphic designer the creative freedom, they're just going to do what they do best. They're not working with the image that's in your head because they don't have an example of what that image is. So, if you don't know what you want, your graphic designer is not going to know what you want. And this works for graphic designers who have been working with you for a long time, or graphic designers that you've just started to work with. Graphic designers are not mind readers. Find examples. You can go on Pinterest, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Google, where you can type in and use image search. Just find all the examples that you can. And even if you don't find an exact example of what you want, just finding bits and pieces that you can ask the graphic designer to put together for you, that is a good place to start as well. So number 1, communicate with examples. Alright, so number 2, let your graphic designer know what's the purpose of your design. This may seem like a no-brainer, of course you're supposed to let them know, but sometimes people forget. The purpose of your graphic design also affects how the graphic designer is going to design it, the type of creativity is going to surround it, and what's expected in terms of the files after the final piece is given. For example, the size of a web banner is completely different for the graphic and size for a Pinterest page. Likewise, if you're doing a billboard, you're going to need a graphic in different specs. It's going to be high definition. Maybe you need something like a 3D layout or printout, different graphic design, different methods. Maybe the graphic designer might have to use different tools. Or if you're using a graphic designer to create a graphic that's going to be animated, then they're gonna have to do something different from if they're just gonna give you a graphic for a social media post. So first off, define what your graphic is for, and that's gonna help you figure out the size, the specs, the quality, and any other materials or items that you need to provide. Also, have an initial meeting with your graphic designer. I know sometimes we may not, be able to meet face to face, but if you can have a video call or just spend time like reading through the email that you sent them to just go into detail what this graphic means for you. If this graphic is a part of a marketing campaign, then you need to send them the details of your marketing campaign so they know what kind of design you're expecting. For example, if you simply say, oh, I just want a logo, but the logo for a fashion brand and the logo for a medical company are two different logos. Likewise, social media graphic, layout, text, and anything else that they expect, anything else that your viewers might expect your graphic to look like. So be sure to define that and be sure to just have that all in place. An initial meeting, share the story, share any marketing materials, and also share your brand guide. If you don't have a brand guide, don't worry, I've got you covered. There's a free brand guide that you can download, fill in, keep, and whenever you're working with a graphic designer or anyone that has to do with your content, you can simply send that brand guide over, and it's the first step to just covering all the bases. And I'll go deeper into that with another video, so you can look out for that. If you're not sure what a brand guide is or how to use it, I've got you covered. Look out for that video. Click subscribe, notifications, so you know when it's out. Alright, so, and then lastly, be sure to let creativity flow. You're coming with your examples and your ideas. The graphic designer you're coming with your examples or your ideas. A good graphic designer is going to bounce back ideas on you, right? A professional graphic designer is going to make sure that he gives his professional opinion on what colors you should use, what kind of look and feel you should go for, because maybe they've worked with similar projects before and they know what's the best way to capture your audience. So be open to that creativity and try not to micromanage your graphic designer's creativity, because that can lead to a very negative relationship in the long run. But this doesn't mean, again, that you're giving your graphic designer free range to do any and everything. It's still your graphic, it's still the work that you want, but you have to find that balance between give and take. It's a relationship. And that leads me to number 3. Number 3, set reasonable deadlines. Now, remember that 1, you're gonna have probably 2 to 3 series of graphics sent to you. When you work with a graphic designer, first you'll get the first draft, which is the first design, which we'll talk about as we go further in the video. Then you probably get a second draft based on the changes, and then you'll get the third draft. Now you have to realize that you cannot message a graphic designer on Monday and say, hey, a brand new graphic designer who's never worked with you before, who has no attributes, who doesn't even have your logo, he doesn't know your brand style at all. You can't message them Monday and say, hey, I need 15 graphics by tomorrow. No, unreasonable. No. And if a graphic designer tells you, oh yeah, sure, I can give you tomorrow, you most likely you're not gonna get what you want. I'm telling you. So you have to have time frames, space, accommodating for you to have changes, and for the graphic designer to make those changes and set you back. So if you're planning to, for example, launch a website at the end of the month, you want to reach out to the graphic designer during the first 2 weeks of the month so you can solidify that design and have enough time for you to launch. Close-cutting deadlines are just gonna end up being messy, right? And not every graphic designer is reliable. Sometimes he or she can A, have other clients, B, you'll probably be stuck on the first draft or the second draft, or C, you might just realize that your deadline is just not reasonable. So keep that in mind when you're hiring a graphic designer. If you want last minute work, you're gonna get last minute designs. So be mindful of your deadlines. Number 4, the first draft. Now the first draft is the first set of designs. So the first time you're seeing the design from the graphic designer, I'm going to tell you point blank that it doesn't matter how good a graphic designer is, it doesn't matter how long he or she has been working as a graphic designer. It's all about you as the client, as how you're viewing it. The first draft is not always going to be perfect, but the first draft is the foundation to which you're going to make those changes, build, and kind of see it. Sometimes when we ask for something specific, so if you like grab an image example and you're like, I want this exact design for my brand, and when you see it, you're like, I don't think I like this. That's the whole point of the first draft. Because sometimes what we want and where we want to put things and how we think and like the terminology, the text, the colors, we think we know everything, but the graphic designer is just there like, I'm just going to show you what it looks like so you can decide. Because sometimes we just have to see to believe, right? And that's why when you get your first draft, the first thing you have to do, I would say, is just let it marinate. Like, don't just look and then like, oh, I don't like it. Just sit down with it for 15 minutes tops, 30 minutes. I personally say sit down with it for an hour. Just look at it. Just marinate in it. Just let the design come over. Sometimes you can instantly know, oh, I don't like it. And sometimes you're like, maybe if we fix this and we fix that. But when you're sending back feedback for your first draft, please don't send a one-worded response. Don't be like, I want it to look beautiful. Beauty is subjective. I want it to look exciting. Exciting is subjective. What you think is exciting and what your graphic designer thinks is exciting can be two different exciting. So be specific with your feedback and ask questions. Say, okay, is it possible to do this? Is it possible to do that? Could I see this in a different color? What do you think this would work? Blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you may want to come back with other examples of like, okay, I didn't like this design, let's use this instead. But that first draft, don't expect it to be perfect all the time. That's not to say that sometimes it can't be perfect, because it can, especially when you're like spot on with what you want. It can. But the first draft is just for you to visualize what exactly you requested from the graphic designer. Okay, it's not the final piece. So after you've sent that first draft, then the graphic designer is going to take everything that you sent them and go, and please be specific. Be specific with your color. Be specific with what exactly you're looking for. If you're not sure, just tell your graphic designer, I'm not sure how to articulate it in the terms that you would use as a graphic designer. As a normal person, not like graphic designers aren't normal people, but as a client, this is how I want. I hope you can understand, and just make sure that that line of communication between you two, it's clear. That's the most important thing with any professional that you work with. Communication is important. So first draft, not always gonna be perfect, but just communicate, ask questions, and work with the flow. Number 5, remember, graphic designers and any other professional that you work with is just like dating. You don't just date one person, right? And even if you start dating somebody seriously and you realize that the relationship is not that great, you break apart and you both find, your better halves. Same thing with graphic designing. Not every graphic designer is going to see your vision or be able to design the way that you like. That doesn't mean you stick with that graphic designer and you cause hell, both cause hell for each other. What you do is you talk it out and you realize if it's not working, you move on to a next graphic designer. And if it is working, you improve on your communication. You're not stuck to one graphic designer. And likewise, graphic designers, you're not stuck to one client. Okay? You guys have to make sure that you're both professionally comfortable to be in the relationship. Otherwise, it'll come through in the work and it'll come through in your communication. So make sure you're comfortable or you can work with this graphic designer in the long run. You really don't want to start like changing graphic designers. You don't want to be that person that dates a serial dater. This person this week, that person this week, this person this week. You want to settle down. You want a nice commitment with a loyal graphic designer who's going to always be there. Because the longer you work with a graphic designer, the more they're going to intuitively get your brand's voice, the look and feel that you want. They're going to be able to provide you with graphics bit more effectively, much more quicker, because they know what you like, they know what you don't like, and that's a part of the relationship. And you also figure out how to communicate even better with that person because you've been working with them long term. So I say aim for finding a graphic designer that you can work with on the long run. Okay, and last but definitely not least, ask for the editable file, the source file, or editable attributes. What this means is that if a designer decides to create a logo for your brand, you're most likely going to get a PDF or you're going to get a JPEG. That's not enough because you're going to have to use that logo or that design from that graphic designer for different parts of your business. Maybe on social media, maybe on your website, maybe on business cards, maybe on traditional media. So ask for that editable file because what it does is if you want to change the color or if you want to send it to a different graphic designer for a different design, they can just go straight into the project and just start adding the attributes, adding the text, the PNG, blah, 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 everything that they need. But if they're going to get a PDF, they're going to have to turn that into a PNG, and then they're going to have to do this, and then they're going to have to do that. And the time it takes to do all of that, that cuts into their design time, right? And maybe you might not be thinking that, maybe I don't need to edit it right now. You might in the future, and just having that editable file or the attributes on hand makes a hell of a difference when you're going through and you need to get a project done right now. So just remember to request that from the graphic designer when they're sending you the final draft, when you're going through and you're getting the last stage of your design. Some graphic designers are okay with giving the source file, while others are not. So that's actually something up to the graphic designer's discretion, and also based on what you want the design for, or if you have a non-disclaimer contract. So think about that, try and talk about that in the design process, but definitely try and get an editable file or a PNG version so that you can do a lot more with it in Photoshop or in Illustrator, vice versa. So get the attributes or an editable file so that you can do more with it in the future and you're not stuck with a PDF. Okay? Yeah. And there you have it. 6 ways that you can work with a graphic designer for your brand. I hope these were really helpful. I know that they've helped me in the past when I was working with graphic designers and just being in marketing in general. Again, if you guys want more videos on how to grow and market your business, especially your online business, just click subscribe down here or here, whichever one's easy. And also share this video with someone you think would really need help with working with a graphic designer or need some marketing tips to grow their brand. And every Tuesday, I post tips on how to market and grow your brand, Tuesday tips. And don't forget, if you have any questions or if you want to share your own tips on when you're working with a graphic designer, or if you're a graphic designer and you have some tips for clients, comment below, let me know. I want to hear them. I always answer my comments. And also, don't forget to follow me on IG, Instagram, and Facebook. There's a tag down below, VictoriaVitalVines.co, Victoria Taylor Marketing. And guys, I am excited and I can't wait to see you guys next week. So that's it. Don't forget, comment below, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
That's